This presentation covers the unification of Italy and its nationalist movement. The nationalist movement to unify Italy, also known as the Risorgimento or the Resurgence, began after Napoleon's loss of Italy, which was held from 1796 to 1814, led to the Congress of Vienna from September 1814 to June 1815. The Congress of Vienna practically returned Italy to pre-Napoleonic conditions of regionalism. The Italian peninsula was now divided into many states with different rulers, cultures, and economies. The Spanish Bourbon monarchy ruled in the south, and the Pope and the Papal States governed Rome and southern central Italy. The rest of central Italy was controlled by the duchies, who had relationships with foreign powers. Lombardy and Venetia were ruled by the Austrian Empire, and Piedmont-Sardinia was the only large independent Italian state and was ruled by Victor Emmanuel II without a constitution. By being dominated and influenced by foreign rule, which divided Italy into many states with different rulers, cultures, economies, and conditions, the Italian people only had political loyalty to their specific regions or towns and not to their foreign rulers, as there was little attachment between the rulers and the people. Although the people did not enjoy the foreign rule, as each region varied in conditions of the lives of the people, the idea of a unified Italy was far-fetched. The Risorgimento opened the people's eyes to what could be, and opened the minds to the possibility of a unified Italy that shares a common language, customs, and government. Because of the Congress of Vienna and the regionalism that it created, the Risorgimento began to spread and eventually succeeded due to the contributions of Giuseppe Mazzini, Giuseppe Garibaldi, and Count Camillo di Cavour. The three men had different wants for the nationalist movement, but were all necessary for its success, as each man paved the way for the other. Giuseppe Mazzini was known as the heart of Italian unification and was one of its original early leaders. Mazzini believed in a bottom-up republic created by the will of the people and envisioned an Italy ruled by a republican government that was free, independent, and united. In order to achieve his united Italy and rid it of Austrian rule, Mazzini joined the revolutionary movements in their early stages and became a member of the Carbonari, a secret society advocating liberal and patriotic ideas. The Carbonari helped spark the Risorgimento, and shortly after joining, Mazzini was arrested and forced to flee and moved to France. In France, in 1831, Mazzini founded a nationalist group called Young Italy. Young Italy consisted of liberal intellectuals who wanted a unified Italy with a centralized and republican government. They were based on the moral and spiritual revival of the Italian people and wanted to educate the people in their political role. They ended up attracting up to 50,000 to 60,000 members, and with Mazzini began to spread the revolutionary call to arms throughout Italy. From the 1830s to 1850s, Young Italy helped organize multiple uprisings, but with those uprisings there were many setbacks. Young Italy experienced multiple failed mutinies. In 1833, there was a failed mutiny in the army in Turin, which led to 12 executions and a suicide of Mazzini's best friend Jacopo Ruffini. In 1834, there was also a Piedmontese failed naval mutiny in an attempt to liberate Piedmont of foreign influence with an army of international volunteers. During this mutiny, Garibaldi, one of the three leaders of Italian unification, was condemned to death and forced to flee the country. In 1848, revolutions ignited nationalist sentiment throughout Italy. Lombardy, Venetia, and Milan tried to rise against Austrian rule, but yet again the Austrians crushed it. There were glimmers of hope as a Republican uprising in 1849 crushed the Pope and took Rome, but shortly after the French under the Pope's name reclaimed the land. The failures of the revolutions of 1848 and 1849 and the lack of popular support for insurrection discredited Mazzini's tactics and gave Cavour the opportunity to lead Italian unification. After 1850, Piedmont-Sardinia began to lead the struggle for unification, and in doing so, Mazzini's influence declined. Camillo di Cavour was known as the brains of Italian unification, as he was a very skilled diplomat. In 1852, Cavour became Prime Minister of Piedmont-Sardinia with the initial goal to unify the northern part of Italy with Sardinia, but later to end the Austrian power and to unify all of Italy under Victor Emmanuel II. His plan relied on politics and diplomacy. Along with helping unify Italy, Cavour, once made Prime Minister, strengthened Sardinia's military and economy, improved their agriculture, and helped build railroads. Cavour, unlike Mazzini, did not rely on the people to unify Italy. Instead, he decided to use politics to achieve unification. Cavour knew that the only way to get Austria out of the north was through an alliance. In order to achieve an alliance, in 1855, Cavour supported Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire in the Crimean War against Russia, after which he received Napoleon III's support in a future war with Austria in return for Nice and Savoy. In 1858, with Napoleon III and France's support, Cavour provokes a war with Austria by refusing to disarm Piedmont Sardinia. This war becomes known as the Franco-Austrian War of 1859. After winning the war, Piedmont and Sardinia takes back Lombardy and spreads nationalist revolts throughout northern Italy in Parma, Tuscany, and other central and northern Italian states against their foreign rulers in hope of creating a unified Italian country. The northern Italian states held elections in 1859 and in 1860 and voted to join the Kingdom of Piedmont and Sardinia. Although Cavour almost united all of northern Italy, Austria's keeping of Venetia after the war caused Cavour to resign, but he returned in office in January 1860 to fully unite Italy. Although Cavour was successful in almost completely unifying the north, in order to fully complete the unification of Italy, he would need the assistance of Giuseppe Garibaldi in order to unite the north and the south. Garibaldi was known as the sword of the Italian unification. Unlike Cavour, who was a skilled diplomat, Garibaldi was a man of the people. He was a member of the Young Italy group and was a war hero who had fought the Austrians and French in the revolutions of 1848 and 1849, and in 1859 returned to fight the Austrians again. Garibaldi, after hearing the proposed annexation of Nice, his birthplace, and Savoy to France, organized an army to protect the territories. Fearing the consequences of antagonizing the French, Cavour convinced Garibaldi to instead support the revolt against Francis II, the King of the Two Sicilies. Following Cavour's orders, Garibaldi took his 1,000 followers, known as the Red Shirts, for always wearing red shirts in battle, and landed in Sicily in May and took Palermo, the capital of Sicily, by the end of the month. After taking Palermo, Garibaldi took his men and traveled in September to the mainland's capital of Naples and then conquered it. After his two victories, thousands had deserted the Royal Sicilian Army and joined his cause. Fearing that Garibaldi was becoming too powerful and might complete unification himself and rival the power of Victor Emmanuel II, or provoke intervention by the French or Austrians, Cavour had the Sardinian army attack the Papal States and defeated the Pope's forces. Then, both Cavour and Garibaldi's armies joined together and defeated the Bourbon King of the Two Sicilies. After which, Garibaldi honored his earlier pledge to Cavour and supported Victor Emmanuel II as King of Italy. On March 17, 1861, the Kingdom of Italy was proclaimed, with Victor Emmanuel II as its first king. Once the Kingdom of Italy was proclaimed, the only two regions of the Italian peninsula not included were Venetia, controlled by the Austrians, and Rome, by the Pope. In 1866, Italy joined Prussia in a war against Austria. When the Prussians won the Austro-Prussian War, Italy was given Venetia, leaving Rome as the last obstacle to completely unify Italy. Then, in 1870, during the Franco-Prussian War, French troops withdrew from Rome so that they could defend France against Prussia. At this time, the Italian forces seized the opportunity and took the lightly defended Rome, which became the capital of the Kingdom of Italy. With Rome and Venetia in its grasp, Italy was finally unified and the Risorgimento was over. Italian unification would not have been possible without the steps that Mazzini, Cavour, and Garibaldi took. Without Mazzini being the heart of unification, spreading the cause, and leading revolts in its early stages, many of the movement's future leaders may have never came to be. Garibaldi, for example, was a byproduct of Mazzini's Young Italy group. And then Cavour, being the brains of unification, seeing and taking the opportunity to unify Italy and using diplomacy and politics to do so, had the political power necessary to take advantage of strategic situations without which took away all possibility in the unification of Italy. Then, without Garibaldi being the sword of unification and attracting thousands of followers, the North would not have been able to unite with the South, and the Kingdom of Italy would have never been formed. Although unification occurred under Piedmont Sardinia, without the contributions of all three men, the Risorgimento would not have achieved such a great success.